Just be a quick one. Got the solar panel hooked up and completely unideal situation. It's dirty, it's flat, the sun is already kind of low, it's a bit hazy. The clouds, I'm sure, will cover it again in a moment. So yeah, this is kind of the plan here, to have a bunch of extra wire and then just be able to throw the mod, if it's not windy or something, on top, or set it up somewhere ideal for the sun. But for testing, this is fine. And let's check out the charge controller. Here we go. So right now I have the lighting on, which is the only thing I've hooked up for load. And if we get in here, we can see battery 2.5 amps. Now positive 2.5 amps. So despite the 900 milliamp draw, we're still getting 2.5 amps, which is cool. Load actually went up to 1.2 amps. That's interesting. I wonder why. So let's cycle through. 29 volts from the solar panel. That seems a bit low. I wonder if that's calibrated. I should test it at the thing here. Of course, if it's under load, it will have a lower voltage, so that could be accurate, actually. So the battery's at 13.7 volts now. When under load, it was at 12.6, which is good. It means we're charging, for sure, just like the arrows indicate. And again, we're receiving 2.5, 2.6 amps, and load is 1.2, so that's kind of interesting how it went up. I'm kind of curious, actually. Let's turn off the lighting. There's no reason for that to have gone up. Okay, load went down to 0. That's fine. PV 30 volts. And it's showing PV 1.7 amps. So this is what's funny. The solar panel is 36 volt, so, or 34-ish volts. So it's only pulling 1.7 amps out of the potential perfect sun 9 amps or 8 amps. And then after the conversion to 12 volt, it's boosting up to 3.4 amps, which is sweet. And that's all going to the battery now, because I'm not pulling off the load for the lighting. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. I'm gonna get back to it. So it's a bit later now. I'm working on music, and have that mounted. I'll get to the whole thing in a little bit. So I just, quick little thing again. Sun's going down. It's definitely getting later. It's darkening up a little bit. Sun is low. The panel again is flat. Not ideal at all. So this is pretty crazy. We're still at 13 volts going into the battery. We're still charging. Oh, we got negative amperage. So let's see here. Load 1 amp. I was just looking and it cracked me up. PV 0.2 amps. So we're still producing 200 milliamps, which is nothing really. It was at 300 just a minute ago, but it really shows you the power of an MPPT charge controller. It can raise the voltage even at very, very little load or production. I mean, which is sweet. I mean, it's still charging. It's very, very tiny amount, and we're actually drawing power because I'm running the lights. Ooh, got a burp. I mean, if I go up there and angle the solar panel forward, or even put it in the front, which I might try real fast, we'll probably get a little more production, maybe a lot more. Well, no, I'll be right back. I'm gonna try it. So I just put the solar panel, leaned it up against the hood or the front of the truck, and we're getting half an amp now, or almost 0.4. So went up 200 milliamps. It's more about the irradiance, how much actual sun radiation we're getting, and that's going away as it gets darker. And really, Jesus, there are so many mosquitoes in the back of this truck. Really, what's going on here is we're just not getting much sun. There's not, everything's shaded. There's really not much of a difference between it being on the roof flat and facing towards the sun, because everything's being shaded from the clouds, the trees, and the mountains coming down, or as it comes down below the mountains. So, it's still kind of cool. Up to 13 volts. I mean, it raised just that little bit, raised the voltage up, which is pretty sweet, down to 0.3 amps. Anyways, on to it. Alright, it's 6 o'clock. It's getting dark, sun's going down. So I'm just finishing up. I got off a bit later today, so I didn't have as much time to work on this thing as I wanted to, but I did get to test out the solar, as the clip's shown. Even still at this moment, now it's showing 0 amp pull, or amp draw, or amp production from the PV, but just a few minutes ago, still at like 13 volts. It's actually finally dropping down, which is hilarious. Again, the power of these multi-point power tracking charge controllers, it still shows that there's some kind of charging, but there's really not. It's just too dark. I just think it was kind of funny that, you know, just 10 minutes ago, okay, 14 volts on the PV, that's what I was seeing. So yeah, the battery wasn't being charged then. But still, it's pretty crazy. This thing kept charging till the last drop of light, basically. I mean, it's through the camera it looks brighter than it is. It's quite dark out there. So yeah, I got to test that out, which is sweet. Worked great. I also got to test out my upcoming music system, which is going to be powered by this, a little 12-volt solid-state amplifier. It's an upgraded version of what's actually in the front of this truck for my music in the cab, and I actually have another one of these exact same ones on my toolbox, just for the fun of it, if you remember that video. And I might actually take the toolbox one out and put it in the front of this truck, because it's double the wattage, supposedly like 40 watt. Yeah, even though the one in the front was supposed to be 200 watt. These China things are never labeled right, but supposedly it's like 40 watts or something. But it sounds great on some decent speakers. I mean, it's sweet. These things crank. I put in these speakers, and I was testing these out earlier. I just kind of hooked this up to the power supply and wired the speakers up real fast just to test it, to see, because I want to see which speakers sound good in here. Some of the speakers I have are kind of small, or they're the back speakers for the surround sound systems or something, and they just don't sound good in general. They're not meant for music. So these are some big old Denon. I believe these are the front of an old surround system that somebody gave me, and they sound great. They're bassy, they thump, they're loud. Even coming out of this tiny little amplifier, they sound awesome. And when I had it hooked up full volume, cranking some System of a Down, I was looking at the load, and I think it maxed out at 1.2 amps and then dropped down to like 800, 900 milliamps. Just nothing, just no power. I mean, these lights are pulling more power than this thing was pulling at full volume, which is sweet. That's awesome. It means I can crank music for, you know, a lot of time. It's so awesome. It also doesn't have any phantom draw, so I mean, there's another switch it'll be on, but 2 switches, whatever. That's the whole point of those switches, by the way, is to kind of try to avoid any phantom draw. The only thing I can think of that's going to have any phantom draw in the first place will be the inverter. Even though it's got an on-off switch, even off, I still think it's pulling power just a little bit. That will be on this side of the truck with a completely separate switch, because it's going to have a completely separate wire going straight to the battery. It just pulls too much power to come out of the charge controller. That's fine. I'll probably barely use the thing. Anyways, so yeah, to mount these things was kind of a challenge. I didn't want to put them down here. Trying to avoid, again, putting them on the ground, and I was also trying to avoid any kind of like protrusion past the bed here, and you know, really past this, but past the bed here and in this area on each side, because that's where I want to put like water jugs. I don't think a big spigoted water jug will fit in there, but my 5-gallon water jugs for the inside water actually fits perfect, and it still will. You know, the actual top, you know, it funnels, so it'll funnel up and it'll still fit in there. But a big round spigoted water jug that might fit in there will no longer. And there's still the back. It's kind of a sacrifice I had to make. These speakers just sounded too good to not put them in here. And like I said, mounting them was interesting. So this thing, this screw here was here from my dad. I don't know, probably to hang stuff on or something. I'm just looking and trying to find a different way to mount it, and I kind of shoved it in there, and this kind of pushed down on it, and that worked. So I drilled a hole. So it's just going in a little bit, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch or so, and then it's still kind of swapped out. So probably not going to be able to see them. I put no, I'm not going to be able to see them. So I just basically drilled a couple screws into the bottom so that it catches on this lip here on the inside. So it's catching this way, it's kind of being pushed outward, and since they're not moving anywhere, I mean, this screw is solid, which is what I needed. And the same thing over here, I just went ahead and drilled a hole in the aluminum, and it's a smaller screw. I might put another one in. It's a little bit more flimsy, but you know, it's solid enough. I think it'll be fine. If I have to, I'll just put another one in, or if I can find a bigger screw, just what I had laying around, or bolt, whatever. So I've bolted a couple nuts, some washers, and got these things mounted. Not wired up yet. I'll probably get to that either tomorrow or this weekend, Saturday. Should be completely done, or at least, you know, very, very close to done. Everything closed up by Saturday. I mean, right now I can use it. This was like kind of the key right here. This is the 4 sockets for, you know, just DC out, 12 volt. So any kind of, you know, phone charger, anything like that. This is what I'll be plugging my battery charger for my quadcopter stuff. Any RC battery chargers that have the 12 volts can just be plugged right into that. A lot of them come with like the little clamps that just go around the battery, and of course I can pop the hood for that. I thought about putting some wires back here, just a couple terminals, but I don't want anything exposed. Even if I made like a little terminal block that you pop open or something, but you know, this was fine. This will work fine. If somebody really needs to use the clamps, or if I really need to use the clamps, I can pop the hood, and it's not going to really make a difference. I won't be able to see the amp draw. It won't be, you know, measured through the charging shore, but that's okay. So that's about it. My thumb just hit the volume down button, which means it's going to stop recording as soon as I let go, which sucks. But yeah, that's about it anyways for today. Hopefully, if I get off early enough tomorrow, I'll probably have this shoot mostly done tomorrow. Next bigger challenge will be running those giant wires. I mean, pretty much everything else is just held down by packaging tape. It's clear. Kind of the shininess, and you know, that works fine as long as it's a clean surface. The packaging tape works just fine. I haven't put it over the LEDs to keep that up, even though it's got the adhesive. It's just, you know, more protection. I want to protect the LEDs because it's super thin paper. So yeah, this will be it for today, and I'll update as soon as I get to the next one.